Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the first case, the first official legal skirmish arising as a result of the shutdown. So, Trump, in his Trumpian way, has put on the table, and this is one of the things, we have this large scale political calculus and a kind of a dance. Can the Dems tag the Republicans with responsibility in the public's eye for the shutdown by saying we're trying to protect healthcare subsidies? Can the Republicans instead tag the Democrats by, saying they're looking to close down the government or forcing them to votes and the like? But as this is being done, one of the tools, you could call it that. It's really very much, along the menu of Trump 2.0. He is saying, you do this and I'm going to make your life miserable. How? By using other legal powers that I have. And what are they? I'm going with the government shutdown and my having additional powers as a result. I am going to fire people. Now, when there's a shutdown, and I've lived through a few, the absolute, not just custom, but law is that employees, non-essential employees, essential employees stay there, non-essential employees are furloughed and are temporarily suspended. And then it's completely understood and routine that then when the shutdown ends, and the pressures in shutdowns are immense, and you have to imagine that it can't go more than a few days, or at most a little more. But anyway, when that happens, you get back pay. That's just the way it goes. But here comes nasty ass Donald Trump to say, you know what? I'm going to, and this was to, as part to try to have his brinksmanship, which did not work, to have the Democrats, knuckle under and vote to keep the government open. He said, you do this? Here's what I'm going to do, friends. I'm going to fire all kinds of people. And I don't mean during the pendency of the shutdown. I mean permanently. And indeed, the Office of Management and Budget just today has issued a memo interpreting the governing law, surprise, surprise, to say Trump can do this. He can fire people. So that, by the way, is really added to the calculations of the Democrats. Their calculation is that, as has been fairly normal in the past, the people blame the Republicans for the shutdown, and a lot of political advantage thereby accrues to the Dems. And that's part of this dance here. But now you have Trump changing the stakes by saying, I'm going to get rid of things permanently. So that's what prompts the lawsuit in San Francisco. And you have essentially a bunch of unions suing the head of OMB, Russell Vought, and saying they're going to pull this trick. They're not allowed to. It's against the law. And actually, it's got many legal problems, including, the caption styles it as an Administrative Procedure Act case. So what they are saying, and the claims are always very strong, but sometimes they're subject, especially to Supreme Court intervention, saying the Constitution doesn't permit the law that seems to apply, and you say applies, to apply. Here they're saying the Administrative Procedure Act, whatever else you do, this is the kind of severe change that the law requires there be notice, there be comment, and that you not act arbitrarily and capriciously, OMB, federal agency. This has to be thought through, etc. And what we have instead is just a abrupt announcement by Trump, a kind of screw you, Democrats. I'm going to get rid of a lot of people personally. And so that includes the plaintiffs here are a lot of union folks, but also individual union members who will have standing, assuming the court believes things are ripe. There will be a potential issue of nothing's happened yet, and until it does, or it's like, right on the cusp, there's no standing to bring it. That'll play out, but if it comes to a point where they're really going to do this thing, then in fact, standing will apply. So the basic thing is saying you don't have this under the APA, and because you're acting arbitrarily and capriciously and unlawfully, and the actual sort of target of the plaintiffs is the memo that OMB, as I mentioned, issued just today. And they say they have misinterpreted federal law governing shutdowns. And there's a lot of law governing shutdowns, with the memo saying that the president could, quote, use this opportunity, close quote, to consider layoffs for programs where the funding is lapsed and that aren't priorities of the president, basically to just do what he wants and ransack further the federal government with even less restraints because of the special legal circumstances of a shutdown. So they're coming in and they're saying this memo by OMB, what they're calling the OMB lapse memorandum, is a partisan attempt to pressure members of Congress to just accede to the Trump administration's demands in the negotiations about a continuing resolution. That is to say, a bill to keep the government open. So he's basically, it's they say arbitrary and capricious, which is, a fair legal provision, but there's really just the sense of, as always, Trump's just, a dirty tactic player, using dirty pool to say, oh, look how sorry you're going to be if you don't do what I say. Now, they're not doing what he says. The dance has begun, and the question will be who will take the heat for it and what that means. You don't have Congress thinking about people, and Dems are saying we're trying to save your health care. That's the way it plays, and the Republicans get tagged with it, then, presumably, and you already have both parties thinking about next year and the midterms. That's more of a feather in the Democrats' cap, but they're really thinking about this in straightforward political terms, including Trump's threat here to say, I'm going to fire all these people. There's nothing you can do about it if we are in a shutdown. So that's what the suit is for. They'll first have to, I think the administration will first come in and say, we haven't done it yet, not ripe, etc. And that'll play out. We'll see how the judge in the Northern District of California, District Court, that's where I practice, where I was first in AUSA, pretty liberal bench. So we'll see what that person first has to say about it, but then potentially on to the Ninth Circuit, which, recall, reversed Judge Breyer in an important case involving a test of Trump's powers. But basically, can they, as the shutdown continues over what I have to think can't be that many days, but as it does, are they able to get the court to order Trump, don't pull this interim threat that you are bringing, don't use it as a pretext to fire yet more people, and really, continue the whole basic demolition job that you are enacting on the executive branch. So that's the issue first. Some kind of standing, has it happened yet? But then on the substance, do you violate the Administrative Procedure Act or otherwise violate important provisions, including the Constitution of the United States? If you now try to change the rules, which currently provide for workers to return and get back pay, and make it that either they don't, or even, and this is absolutely part of the threat, they're fired, they're done, they, gotta go try to find a job in a used car lot. That's what's the stakes are here. There'll be similar things in the shutdown, but this is the main kind of nasty tactic that Trump is promising as part of the shutdown. So this will be the big fight back. And also, this case has to proceed quickly. Right now, without any injunction in play, Trump could just start firing, at least under his interpretation. And once he does that, it's always hard to unscramble the eggs, as it were. So I think you'll see a motion where the district court is asked to grant some kind of emergency relief, and then we'll see if the whole game of running up to the Supreme Court eventually and saying, tell them that they can't freeze our hands while this is happening. It's a terrible affront to Article 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so really first big and important showdown, probably the main one of the shutdown, and it has to do with the job security of people who in the past have always been secure, but now Trump is sort of gleefully promising to fire and permanently. So that's what this case is about. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.